Hey everybody, welcome to Unconfined Conversations on our second episode with my very good friend Steve. Got to dap it up. Here at Unconfined Conversations, of course, we talk about issues regarding incarceration and the issues surrounding it with the men and women who have experienced it. Make sure that you check us out on Facebook and YouTube and where else? X. And you can also find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music, with hopefully more platforms to come soon. So, with that being said, let's get into it. So, Steve, today we're going to be talking about something that's really important to both of us, and something that we have talked about ad nauseum. We've talked about it a lot, right? Which is not only rehabilitation, but also redemption as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because both of those things really are hand in hand when it comes to the meaningful, purposeful changes that we so desire, not only within ourselves, but that society would push upon us as well.
Right.
So I'll lead out with you. What are your thoughts about not only rehabilitation, because, the rehabilitation thing is a huge topic now in South Dakota, particularly in Sioux Falls, with the advent of this new prison being built and the governor's formation of a rehabilitation committee, and also of Mayor Tenhagen's formation of a similar type of committee, which is talking about what do we need to have inside the walls in order to facilitate rehabilitation. But there's a little bit more than besides what happens inside the walls when it comes to rehabilitation. And some of that has to do with redemption, inside and outside. So speak on that just a little bit.
For sure. I think it definitely has a lot to do with the individual, as you and I can both testify about, that our lives individually were changed in our hearts, in the inward man, something became different. In the Kello interview, I talked very briefly about the consideration when you're sentencing someone to prison, what's the hopeful outcome? As they're coming out of incarceration, as they're going through incarceration, the distinction between a shorter sentence versus a longer sentence, all these things are variables that I think need to be considered as you are sentencing someone to the penitentiary. But just to key in on that one factor of somebody going through the system and what's the outcome? What do I hope to see after somebody is ultimately released? Short of a life sentence or a huge amount of numbers, 150 or 100 years or 200 years or whatever crazy sentences sometimes people get. But I think getting out, as I've faced, went to prison for a particularly heinous and violent crime. And so naturally I had this concern when I get out, there's going to be a kind of a keep me at arm's distance, keep an eye on me, put me on some kind of, in addition to parole, but like some kind of double secret probation, people at my job watching me, all this kind of stuff.
Like fearful things that people in society have towards people who are on parole, right?
Yeah. Stereotypes we talked about
for sure.
Somebody comes out and you just hear that they have a felony, and automatically your assumption is, oh no, what do I do? Kind of thing. But I would say that I experienced the opposite, and I can speak for countless others who have experienced the opposite as well, where we've had employers who have taken a chance on us, knowing in full detail what we have done, what crime, what hurt, what pain, what trauma we've created in our past, and still taking a risk on us and saying, I'm going to hire this person. I'll give you a for instance. One time I was speaking at this group, and I made this point. I said, if we believe in redemption, if we believe in forgiveness, if we believe in reconciliation, those of us who do, then we're forced to answer the question, well, then would I hand the keys of my business to this person who has gone through this experience? And that's a challenging question. I know for a fact my employer has had to consider that and pass with flying colors, pass me off the keys. And I thought that was just such a cool gesture, whether he knows it or not. That's what it meant to me in my heart, that this person took a chance on me. They seen that rehabilitation had been worked into my heart and my life, and that I could, in a sense, be redeemed and be welcomed back into society as a normal human being.
Do you think that your employer, I mean, you went through an interview process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, your employer only really knew very little of it. Obviously, they did a background check and all these kind of things, right? But, they had a conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that they were convinced initially just based off of that one interview or that one conversation? Or do you think that it took a little while for them to be convinced to say, yeah, we did make the right decision here? Like, what do you think led them to have that feeling initially? Not only based off of what your presentation was, but what do you think it was within them that allowed them to have those feelings about, like, hey, let's give this guy a chance. Let's give him some trust here, right? What do you think led to both sides of it?
There was this story that I remember hearing years ago about this person who was a religious figure in this community, and it was during the days of stocks. Remember they put people in stocks?
Oh,
those
yeah.
wood things, and
Yeah.
publicly humiliate and shame them.
Right.
All this, put them on the town square, and just and do whatever, hurl insults at them, spit on them, throw things on them, whatever. And this guy had done this particularly heinous, whatever offense that he had done, and it was well spread throughout the city. And here come this religious figure, and everybody's hurling insults at this person who's under punishment. And they said, "Oh, here comes brother such, and brother such is, he'll set the record straight as to how we as society should feel about this, right?" And he comes along, and they said, "Hey, brother such and such, here's this person. He did this. You heard about it?" He goes, "I did." And he goes, "And what do you say? What do you say? We feel this way. What do you say?" And he looked at the crowd, and he looked at the person under punishment, looked back at the crowd, and looked down for a second. He looked up, and he uttered these words, something to this effect. He said, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." And I think that the lesson was over that day because people understood that even this religious figure understood his own need for redemption, his own need for some type of forgiveness or reconciliation. So, in answering your question, my employer, I think through the lens of faith, was able to say, you know what? We've been in a position where someone took a chance on us. We've been in a position where someone had to basically extend themselves a level of trust or what have you and say, you know what, we're going to take a risk on this person, even though they're a little jagged around the edges, even though they still cuss a little, even though they still have all these issues that plague them. I think they've seen themselves in the light in the light of their belief, but also seeing their own hearts, for what they themselves were capable of. And I think unless you see it like that, it becomes very difficult for you then to hire somebody with a felony.
Yeah, of course. You know, your example with your employer, it is that way with some people who have come out of prison, who have sought out a job and who have been given a lot of grace, right, by their employer. You've experienced that. I've experienced that with my employer. My employer is a huge believer in second chances, in redemption. Within our company, there's lots of folks who have felonies, who have had a checkered past, whatever way you want to say it. And they judged me based only on what I could offer the company, which was What are your skills? What can you offer the company as far as those skills? And can you meaningfully contribute to the productivity and the financial gain of the company?
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very, very nice thing to be judged only off of those sets of criteria and not solely based off of, oh, hey, you were in prison for over 2 decades, right?
Correct me if you're wrong, but weren't you hired before you left prison?
I was. I was hired before I left prison. Not officially, of course.
Yeah.
But so at Mike Durfee State Prison, they have job fairs where they invite employers who want to participate to come into the prison. They have it in the visit room where they have tables and booths and chairs and such. And guys who are close to getting out can participate in these job fairs. And they can go and talk and have real interviews. And the guys will put together a resume.
Mm-hmm.
If they're so able to, they can put together a portfolio of their work, like what I did. And you can make your pitch
Mm-hmm.
because these employers are really looking for employees. They're looking to fill these open positions within their companies. And my company was one of them. And I made my pitch, I presented my resume and my portfolio, and I was offered a position right away. The guy said, hey, as soon as you get out, you come in for an interview. He said, you'll for sure you have a position if you want. Which was like an amazing thing because my entire time inside prison, the lens of which I was looked at was through the lens of my felonious actions,
Mm-hmm.
through the lens of this person is in prison because of this.
Mm-hmm.
This person is in prison for X amount of years. This person has inmate across their chest, on their pants, on their back, on their ID card. This everything that
They
we
respond
have,
to inmate.
you respond to inmate. So we'll just briefly touch on that a little bit, right? So if an officer yells out, "Hey, inmate," what happens?
Everybody looks.
Everybody looks. What? You talking to me? Right? That's what happens. We're identified as that.
Oh,
And even to go beyond that, we're only really used to hearing our last names when it comes to how we're addressed. In prison, almost never were you addressed as Steve.
very rarely.
Very rarely. And same thing for me. Very rarely was I addressed as Ryan. Right? It was our last name.
From the staff.
Yes.
And I get that. You know,
Yes, of
friendships,
course.
brothers, that's a whole nother
That's
animal,
different. Right?
You know, yeah.
But from staff, from people in authority, right? It was always our last names. And when I got out and I was being addressed by my employer as Ryan,
It's an adjustment.
It's an adjustment. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It's an adjustment. And it felt a little weird,
Yeah.
but it also felt really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's because it's not that they didn't care, right? That I was in prison or anything. It's just that what I was able to offer the company, the other stuff didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They only wanted me there to contribute to the company, and also because of my particular company, and obviously your particular company's belief that, hey, just because someone has a past doesn't mean that they can't meaningfully contribute to the financial gain of our company.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to give this person a chance. And I think I had a great experience with that. You had a great experience with that. But that was a feeling of redemption.
Sure.
Instead of being viewed and addressed through the lens of this person's a felon, this person's a convict, this person's a screw up, they did all these kind of things. We were being viewed through the lens of humanity
Mm-hmm.
and compassion
Mm-hmm.
and just normalcy, which I think is what every person coming out of prison wants, is normalcy, right? And so that helped us with our rehabilitation, with what's going on up here in our minds about how we feel about ourselves
Sure.
and the trajectory of our lives.
Sure.
Because we don't have to feel like, when's the shoe going to drop because they're going to fire us because we were in prison or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in my company knows that I was in prison.
Mm.
And it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm there to work and everybody's there to work and we just work together. And I think through our examples of how you carry yourself, how I carry myself, and quite frankly, how other people of our own ilk carry themselves within their own jobs, because there's lots of people like Steve and I. That has helped us with the feeling of redemption, to feel like we're in some sort of normalcy.
Right. We talked about this. Well, we've talked about this a lot, but we literally are the missing statistic. And what I mean by that is, too often the numbers that get noticed, the numbers that get attention, are those that have to do with recidivism, those that have to do with people returning to prison, right? We say that word recidivism, but it's typically said in the context of the negative. Where
Can you define recidivism, by the way, for those who may not really understand the term?
I'll put it on the screen. How about that? Just so you don't get muddied up with my words.
Perfect.
But again, just the negative side of that and not the positive. So when I speak of us being the missing statistic, where are the people who didn't return to prison? Where are the people who went on to run their own businesses? Where are the people who went on to retirement? Where are the people who went on to, as I know one brother, he's going to retire at the age of 40. He's younger than me. I'm 42. I'll be 43. He's going to retire at the age of 40 and travel the world based upon his investments that he made while he was in prison, based upon the decisions that he made during the season of COVID to make an adjustment within his field of expertise and how much effort he was going to put into it, and it paid off for him. So when I talk of the missing statistic, I'm really referencing those who are quote unquote successful. That word successful is kind of a moving target, as I've heard somebody in a position of authority recently scold one of my friends, saying that she wouldn't consider him necessarily successful. But I countered with my friend, and I said, "You are successful. In my eyes, you're successful. You're making it. You're out here. You're working. You're doing what you know you need to do. And that to me is success."
Sometimes success, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, sometimes success in some people's eyes is based off of like a certain level of where other people think that you should be, right? But not necessarily like, you're your own individual and I'm my own individual. And you're in one season of your life and I'm in a different type of season in my life. And the definition of success has to be fluid, right? Because maybe in your life and the things that are going on for you, you're absolutely being successful. Are there things that you still want to improve about your life?
Sure.
Absolutely. Same thing here.
Every day.
Every day. And just because perhaps maybe you and I enjoy success in our personal lives, in our careers, in our financial lives, in our own personal spaces, just because somebody else isn't quite there yet in those areas in their life, but yet they're out of prison, they're striving their very best, they're making it, even though maybe it may be meagerly making it, but they're making it. I have a friend who, has really been through it in the last year to year and a half.
Sure.
He's moved 3 or 4 times. He's been married for about a year and a half. They have a new baby boy, maybe only 4 months old, 4 or 5 months old, something like that. They've really been put through it. And a lot of it has to do with finances, but also the neighborhoods that they had to live in because of their limited finances, but also because one of them's a felon. And it was hard to find housing and find housing that wasn't in, really bad neighborhoods here in Sioux Falls. But through it all, though, he has persevered. They've both persevered. They know it's hard, but they're successful because they're doing it together. They're doing it even though it's hard. They're not giving up. They're not giving in to the things that maybe plagued them before, which led both of them to prison.
Well,
So
it involves a decision. Sorry, but it involves a decision. You talked about that before at length. Having a determination within your own heart to do right, even though you're incarcerated. it's much of the same out here, if not more, because there are freedoms, there are opportunities to run amok and do your own thing, be off the rails, you know, push the envelope as best as you can. But at the end of the day, you have to make a willful decision. I want to be free. I want to do right. And I would even further that by saying, in your finances, you have to make the decision. Like, this is how my finances are going to go. I'm given this amount every 2 weeks, every week, every month, or whatever it is, and that's it. Live within your means, and I think you'll be successful.
So do you think, and I'm sure you do, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but do you think that having that determination, which you just referenced, that can then be noticed by employers, by people maybe you have to rent from, people in society, your neighbors, that when that determination is noticed, that the people around you can then say, you know what, this person's really trying hard. Let me support them, even if it's just saying hi. Let me support them by coming over and introducing myself. Let me support them by saying, hey, I know you're kind of struggling with this, but let me introduce you to this person. Whatever it may be. When people notice effort, that you're putting forth a lot of effort, that you're striving hard, people will gravitate towards you and assist you, guide you, support you, whatever. They will just do that. And then the person who is receiving that will feel a little bit of redemption. They'll feel as if they're being looked through the lens of humanity instead of through the lens of incarceration and felonies and being in prison and all these other sort of things. And so then once you start to feel better about yourself and about the trajectory of your life, you start to have some momentum in your life.
Right.
Where once you start feeling that momentum and you have small victories, it can start a trajectory like this in your life. And I'll just use my own brother as an example. My brother has been in trouble since he was 8 years old. He was incarcerated from 8 to 18 in the juvenile system. He was in Nebraska, he was in Minnesota, he was in Texas, he was all over the place. Got to be 18, still was screwing up, all sorts of things. He ended up committing felonies, state felonies and federal felonies. He went through the state system, he went through the federal system, he got out, he was still kind of screwing up. But because he looked up to me, he wanted to get back into my good graces. He says, what do I need to do to get back into your good graces, big bro? I said, bro, you got to show me. You can tell me all you want, but you got to show me. And once he started to show me, then I was right there next to him, giving him little bits of assistance, helping him to achieve small victories. And once he started to feel that, that, man, I can do this, he started making good choices all on his own. He started making moves in his life all on his own because he felt redemption. And now, like, he's engaged to be married.
Oh, wow.
He and his...
They have a kid, right?
They have a new baby who's a month old as of, I think, yesterday or today.
Oh, wow.
So congratulations to them.
Congratulations.
But, he is on this... He's a general manager of a restaurant.
Oh, so.
In less than a year.
Put a plug in for him.
Right. But, he has felt redemption because somebody believed in him, because somebody just noticed effort on his part.
Yeah.
And I think if that segment of society who may, through predetermination, look at people coming out of prison and say, I think I better lock my doors, I think I better hide my kids, I think I better not talk to them, I don't want them rubbing off on me or the people that I know. If we can show them the examples, the, what did you call it? The statistic thing?
Missing statistic.
The missing statistic. If we can show that segment of society these missing statistics of people who have had determination and who are making advancements in their lives, whether it's slow or fast,
Mm-hmm.
I think then we can start to convince them that, you know what, these folks who are coming out of prison, they have every bit of capability as everybody else. We can trust them. We can have them as our neighbors. We can have them as our coworkers, and it'll be as if nothing's different from our other friends and neighbors. And that's the hope, of course, is normalcy,
For sure.
right? And getting into that state of mind, and having those feelings projected upon us only helps us to feel better about ourselves and
For sure.
helps us to have more belief in what's possible for us.
Let me just say something here because this is just welling up in my heart as you're sharing all this. I say this for whoever it applies to, man or woman, inside or outside. Make the decision today as to what you're going to do in your future. And I would say that decision is more crucial today than it is tomorrow. And why I say that is because I sat 21 and a half years incarcerated and had a lot of time to think, well, what's going to happen to me when I get on the outside? But meanwhile, I was maintaining regular employment. I kept one job for 9 years and 10 months. Fantastic job. But I grew through that experience, and that's my challenge. Whatever employment you have, whatever trade, whatever you feel invested in, invest into that the greatest and the best of your ability, because when you get out, it will pay. It will pay, literally, figuratively. Like it will turn out for your good in the long run. Now, I know that kind of sounds like I'm just speaking to my brothers and sisters on the inside, but I'm not. I'm speaking to my brothers and sisters who are out here and maybe taking a job that pays less than what they originally thought they should be paid, but just go the duration, stick with it, prove your faithfulness, and show your employer the true content of your character, who you are today as a person, and watch it pay off.
I think that's a great way to end this episode, Steve. Is to show people the content of your character,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, you know, on the inside, we have a phrase that we like to say that your word is your bond, right? That your word is in everything that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You can stand on your word. And part of that is not just what you say, but it's what you do. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you interact with people.
It's more so what you do.
It's absolutely more so what you do, right?
Yeah.
So the content of your character, Martin Luther King said, judge not others by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say to evolve that very powerful statement into our topic, judge not others based off of their criminal history,
Mm-hmm.
but judge them based off of the content of their character.
Sure.
And I think if we can convince society through these missing statistics and the stories behind
Mm-hmm.
them, then society as a whole will begin to see that, yeah, we can we can we can assimilate with these guys. We can talk to these guys. We can have them be part of our communities. And then, with that comes redemption.
We can challenge our policies within the Department of Corrections. We can challenge our policies within the company. We can make changes that are to the advantage of the person who has come through the penitentiary, through the prison system. Like we can make that change and have it be to where it is to the advantage of the employer to hire a person like yourself. Very skilled, this man. He's a master fabricator. I'm not talking about this. He's a welder, a CNC operator. I mean, tell people what you do.
So for many years, I've been doing metal fabrication, welding, CNC plasma cutting, graphic design with CAD systems. All those things I learned inside. Surprisingly enough, I mean, you would never think that a guy inside prison would be able to have those opportunities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was blessed to have those opportunities, to have those types of jobs, and to gain those skills. And that's what that employer saw at that job fair. And he looked at my resume and he looked at my portfolio and he looked up at me and he says, I want to offer you a job right now. And I couldn't believe it, right? But that's exactly what I do now.
Yeah.
I weld, I do CNC plasma cutting, I do graphic design and computer CAD drawings for the company. And, it has been a true blessing to be able to contribute those skills to a company in meaningful ways. And, good on them for, maybe not handing the keys over to the company, but handing over some trust.
I'm just kidding. I was like, yeah, I got the keys.
But certainly handing over some trust to be able to do that. And so it's possible for anybody on the inside to be able to set themselves up for that type of success. The success that I've had, that Steve has had, that many, many others have had. Because it's not just Steve and I. Like there's lots of other men and women who have had great, great successes. And hopefully here in the future, we're going to have some of those men and women here in the studio, here at Unconfined Conversations, to talk about their experiences and to show some of these statistics that are once hidden, but now they're going to be out in the open for everybody to see. So before we go, we have a special something that we want to say to all of our supporters, to all of the people who have contributed to Unconfined Conversations, whether that's through money, whether that's through time, effort, donations, supplies, gear, all of it. We just really want to say how much that we appreciate all of your support for Unconfined Conversations, for Steve, for myself, for us personally. It has meant so much for us to be able to begin this platform where we can reach the men and women who are in the inside and give them some hope, but also speak to the public about the plight of those who are incarcerated, both during their incarceration and after their incarceration. So for those of you who have contributed and who continue to support Unconfined Conversations, we say thank you.
Thank you.
And we will continue to strive our very best in this cause and on this platform. So make sure that you like and subscribe. Make sure you hit that subscription button so that you'll get notifications on your YouTube channel. And until next time, I'm Ryan.
I'm Steve.
This is Steve, and we'll see you next time on Unconfined Conversations.